Pretend to be my girlfriend for a week, the millionaire asked the wrong woman. Diane Williams had 3 weeks to find $90,000, or her nephew would die. She stared at the hospital bill taped to her refrigerator, the numbers blurring as exhaustion pulled at her edges. The apartment was silent, except for the hum of the ancient fridge and the distant wail of sirens outside. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. "Eli's asking for you. Can you come by tomorrow?" She typed back, "Morning shift ends at 2. I'll be there." Another buzz. This time, an automated reminder from Seattle Children's Hospital. Payment due in 21 days. Please contact our billing department to arrange payment. As if she hadn't already called them 17 times. As if begging had ever changed anything. Diane pressed her palms against her eyes, willing herself not to cry. Crying accomplished nothing. She'd learned that 2 years ago when Maya died, when the grief had been so consuming, she'd thought it might actually kill her. But it hadn't. She'd survived. She'd taken in Eli, helped Ryan navigate his shattered world, worked double shifts until her feet bled. She'd survived everything life had thrown at her. This would be no different. Except it was different. Because this time, survival required money she didn't have, couldn't borrow, and couldn't earn fast enough. The morning shift at Riverside Diner started the way it always did. Chaos wrapped in the smell of bacon and desperation. Diane poured coffee for construction workers who barely looked up from their phones. She delivered eggs and pancakes to nurses whose exhaustion mirrored her own. She smiled, laughed at bad jokes, pretended everything was fine. She was good at pretending. "You look like hell, Dee," Kara said, appearing beside her, tying on her apron even though her shift didn't start for another hour. "Thanks. You really know how to make a girl feel special," Diane replied. "I'm serious. When's the last time you slept?" Kara asked. "I sleep," Diane said. "Nightmares don't count," Kara continued, grabbing the coffee pot from Diane's hands. "Go take a break. 5 minutes." Diane didn't have the energy to argue. She slipped into the back office, a cramped space filled with boxes of napkins and industrial-sized cans of tomato sauce. She sank onto an overturned crate and let her head fall into her hands. 3 weeks. $90,000. The numbers played on repeat in her mind, a nightmare loop she couldn't escape. The door creaked open. Kara squeezed inside, closing it behind her. "Okay, we need to talk," Kara announced. "Not now," Diane said. "Yes, now," Kara interrupted, pulling out her phone and scrolling to something before shoving it in Diane's face. "Elite Connections. I made you a profile." Diane stared at the screen. A dating app. Sleek, expensive looking. "Are you insane?" Diane asked. "Probably. But desperate times, desperate measures, all that crap," Kara said. "Look, I know what you're going to say. But hear me out." "Kara," Diane tried. "These men are loaded," Kara continued. "I'm talking private jet, penthouse suite. Money is literally object loaded. You go on 1 date, maybe 2. You wear something nice, you're charming. Which you are, by the way. And you let them think you're one of them. Let them think I'm... What? Rich?" Diane said. "That's insane. I'd be exposed in 5 seconds. Not if you prepare." "Not if we do this right," Kara said. "I work at Nordstrom, remember? I see these people every day. I know how they talk, how they dress, what they care about. I can teach you." Diane wanted to laugh. Or cry. Maybe both. "This is fraud. Identity theft. Whatever you want to call it. It's illegal," Diane said. "It's survival," Kara countered. The word hung between them, heavy with truth. "I can't lie to someone like that. It's wrong," Diane said. "And letting Eli die. Because you're too proud to bend the rules? That's right, Kara shot back. The words landed like a slap. Diane flinched, anger and guilt warring in her chest. Kara's voice softened. I'm sorry. That was harsh. But Dee, you're running out of time. And I can't just sit here watching you drown. Diane stared at the profile Kara had created. The photo was from last summer, when she was at Cary Park, smiling genuinely for once, the Seattle skyline behind her. Kara had added details. Diane Moretti, heiress. Parents semi-retired in Tuscany. Interests? Art, literature, travel, a complete fiction. I can't, Diane whispered. You can, and you will, because you love that kid more than anything and you'd do anything to save him, Kara said. Kara was right. Diane would do anything. Even this. Meanwhile, Jack Jones had perfected the art of not feeling. He sat in his corner office on the 42nd floor of Jones Tower, staring at acquisition reports that blurred together into meaningless numbers. Outside, Seattle sprawled beneath a blanket of gray clouds, the kind of gray that seeped into everything, permanent and oppressive. His assistant, Marcus, appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. Your grandfather called again. Third time today, Marcus said. Jack didn't look up. Tell him I'm in meetings. I did. He said, and I quote, tell my grandson to stop being a coward and answer his damn phone, Marcus replied. Despite everything, Jack almost smiled. Edward Jones had never been one for subtlety. Fine, put him through, Jack said. Marcus hesitated. He also said he's expecting you for dinner tomorrow night. With a guest. A guest, Jack repeated flatly. He was very specific about that part, Marcus confirmed. Jack's jaw tightened. Tell him, he said, if you don't show up, he's cutting off your access to the Belltown project, Marcus interrupted. Jack's head snapped up. He wouldn't. Marcus's expression said otherwise. Son of a bitch, Jack muttered. Should I tell him you'll be there? Marcus asked. Tell him I'll be there, Jack said finally. With a guest. Marcus nodded and disappeared, leaving Jack alone with his fury. A guest, as if Jack had anyone to bring. His phone buzzed, a notification from Elite Connections, the dating app Marcus had downloaded as a joke 6 months ago. Jack had never deleted it, though he rarely opened it. Bored and irritated, he swiped through profiles, polished women with perfect smiles, and carefully curated photos. He kept scrolling, about to close the app entirely, when a profile stopped him. Diane Moretti. The photo was different from the others. Simpler. She stood at Cary Park, wearing jeans and a sweater, smiling like she'd been caught mid-laugh by someone she actually cared about. Her bio was brief. Art enthusiast. Permanent wanderer. Currently between adventures. My parents live in Tuscany. I believe in good books, better wine, and conversations that last until sunrise. She looked real. Jack told himself it didn't matter, but he messaged her anyway. He typed, your profile says you believe in conversations that last until sunrise. When's the last time you actually had one? The response came 30 seconds later. She wrote, 2 years ago. My sister and I stayed up all night talking about everything and nothing. She died a week later. So I guess I'm hoping for a repeat, minus the tragedy. Jack stared at the message, something uncomfortable shifting in his chest. He replied, I'm sorry about your sister. She wrote back, thank you. When's the last time you had a conversation that lasted until sunrise? Jack typed, never. I'm not good at conversations. Her response came quickly. Then why message me? He decided on honesty. Honestly? I need someone to accompany me to my grandfather's birthday dinner tomorrow night, It's at Canlis. 7 p.m. I know this is forward, and you have every right to say no, but would you be interested? The response took longer this time. Then her message appeared. That's definitely the strangest invitation I've ever received. But sure, why not? Life's too short to play it safe. Jack exhaled, relief mixing with apprehension. He typed, I'll send a car at 6:30. She replied, I can drive myself. Jack wrote, it's easier this way. Trust me. Her final message read, I don't trust easily, but I'll make an exception. This time. 2 days later, Diane stood in Kara's apartment, staring at her reflection in disbelief. The woman in the mirror wasn't her. Couldn't be her. The dress, a Chanel sheath in midnight blue, hugged curves Diane didn't know she had. Kara had done her makeup, her hair, transformed her into someone who looked like they belonged in places like Canlis. You're gorgeous, Kara said, stepping back to admire her work. I'm a fraud, Diane corrected. You're a woman doing what she has to do to save someone she loves, Kara said firmly. There's a difference. Diane wasn't sure there was. The Mercedes arrived at 6:30 sharp. The driver opened her door without speaking, and she slid into the expensive-looking leather seats. The drive to Canlis took 20 minutes. Diane watched the city pass. Her city, suddenly unfamiliar from the backseat of a luxury car. Inside the restaurant, warmth and elegance wrapped around her. A restaurant host appeared immediately. Miss Moretti, Mr. Jones is waiting for you, he said. He led her through the restaurant, and then she saw him. Jack Jones sat at a corner table, devastatingly handsome, in a cashmere sweater and tailored trousers. He looked up as she approached, and something flickered across his face. Surprise. Interest, maybe. He stood, extending his hand. Diane. Jack, she replied, her voice steadier than expected. Thank you for the car. It was easier this way, he said, pulling out her chair. Dinner progressed in a dance of careful revelations and strategic omissions. Jack asked about her parents. She delivered the rehearsed story. Marco and Isabella, Tuscany, wine importing, semi-retirement. They sound elusive, Jack observed. They value privacy. Old money tends to, Diane replied. Jack seemed to relax. He was funny, his humor dry and unexpected. He made her laugh genuinely. Not the performance she'd been maintaining, but real laughter. You're not what I expected, Jack said as dessert arrived. What did you expect? Diane asked. Someone more performing, he said. But you seem almost uncomfortable with all of this. Diane's pulse spiked. She'd let her guard slip. Maybe I'm just a better actress than you think, she said. The check arrived, and Jack signed without glancing at it. They walked outside into the Seattle rain. The Mercedes was waiting, but Jack hesitated. I should ask you now, before you decide I'm completely insane, Jack said. Ask me what? Diane said. I need someone to pretend to be my girlfriend for 1 week, through my grandfather's birthday party this weekend. A few family dinners, maybe a charity event. You'd stay at the estate. Separate room, obviously. Everything professional, Jack said. Diane stared at him, her mind racing. You want to hire me to be your fake girlfriend, she said slowly. Yes, Jack confirmed. That's definitely insane, Diane said. I know, but my grandfather needs to believe I'm capable of human connection, Jack said. And you're convincing. Why me? She asked. Because you don't seem like you need the money, Jack said. The irony nearly broke her. 1 week, she said carefully. What kind of compensation are we talking about? Jack pulled out his wallet, wrote something on the back of his business card, and handed it to her. $50,000. Her hands trembled. "This is too much," she said in her heart. "It's barely anything to you, I know. But I'll make it worth your while," Jack said. 7 days of lying. 7 days that could save Eli's life. "Okay," she heard herself say. "I'll do it." The next evening, Diane stood outside the Jones estate iron gates, watching them swing open with mechanical precision. The house appeared like something from a movie. Glass and stone. Modern architecture. 3 stories overlooking Lake Washington. "Miss Moretti," a woman said, appearing as the car stopped. "I'm Helen, the house manager. Welcome. Mr. Jones is in a meeting, but asked me to show you to your room." Diane followed her inside, trying not to gape. The foyer alone was larger than her entire apartment. Marble floors. A staircase that curved up like something from a fairy tale. Art on the walls that looked museum quality. Helen opened a door to reveal a guest suite that made Diane's knees weak. King-sized bed with luxury linens. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake. "I've taken the liberty of having some basics waiting for you in the closet," Helen said. "Mr. Jones mentioned you traveled light." Diane opened the closet to find it stocked with designer clothes, all in her size, all with tags still attached. Thousands of dollars just waiting. Her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" Diane answered. "Diane, it's Jack." His voice came through, warm. "Helen said you arrived. I apologize for not being there. The situation at work required attention." "It's fine. The room it's beautiful," Diane said. "I'm glad you approve. I'll see you at dinner?" "My grandfather is eager to meet you," Jack said. Diane's stomach dropped. She'd almost forgotten about Edward Jones. "I'm looking forward to it," she lied. She ended the call and sat on the enormous bed, her heart racing. For Eli, she could do anything for 7 days, even become someone else entirely. Dinner was an exercise in controlled terror. Helen collected her at 6:45, leading her to an informal dining room, larger than the entire diner where Diane worked. Jack stood when she entered, and something in his expression shifted. Approval. Appreciation. "Diane," Jack said, pulling out her chair. "You look beautiful." "Thank you," Diane replied. "My grandfather will be down shortly. He's always fashionably late to his own dinners," Jack said. The door opened. Edward Jones entered like he owned the world, which, technically, he did. Tall despite his age, silver hair perfectly styled, sharp blue eyes that took in everything at once. "Grandpa," Jack said, standing. "This is Diane Moretti." Diane stood, extending her hand with what she hoped looked like confidence. "Mr. Jones, it's an honor to meet you," she said. Edward took her hand, holding it gently, studying her face with intensity that made her want to confess everything. "The honor is mine, my dear," Edward said finally. "Any woman who can convince my grandson to smile is worth meeting." They sat. Staff appeared with the first course. "So, Diane Moretti," Edward said, "tell me about yourself." Jack has been infuriatingly vague. Diane's heart pounded. "Well, there's not much to tell, really. My parents are in Tuscany now. Marco and Isabella. They're mostly retired." "Retired from what?" Edward asked. "Import-export. Wine, primarily," Diane said. "They built a successful business and decided they'd rather enjoy life than manage inventory." "And what do you do?" Edward pressed. "I'm between projects at the moment. Consulting work mostly. Art acquisition. Helping private collectors navigate auctions, authenticate pieces," Diane said. Edward nodded, seeming satisfied. "Interesting field." They spent the next hour discussing art, travel, and Seattle's changing skyline. Edward was sharp, funny, occasionally ruthless, but he was also warm. Warmer than Diane had expected. "You're not like the others Jack has brought around," Edward said as dessert arrived. "There have been others?" Diane asked, glancing at Jack. "3," Edward said, "and none of them lasted past appetizers. They were all too polished, too perfect. But you're also genuine. You're comfortable enough in your own skin that you don't need to perform wealth. That's refreshing." The irony nearly choked her. She was performing everything. "I like you, Diane," Edward announced, raising his wine glass. "You make my grandson smile. That's rare enough to be valuable." They raised their glasses, and Diane tasted ash. After dinner, Jack walked her onto a terrace overlooking Lake Washington. "You survived," Jack said. "Barely," Diane admitted. "Your grandfather is intimidating." "He liked you." "I could tell," Jack said. They stood in comfortable silence, watching boats move across dark water. "Can I ask you something personal?" Diane said. "You can ask." "I might not answer," Jack replied. "Why do you need this?" "A man like you could have anyone," she said. "A man like me," Jack repeated. "You mean wealthy?" "Yes," Diane admitted. Jack turned to face the view. "Wealth complicates things. People see the money first, the person second. My father was poor. Charismatic, charming, but poor. He married my mother for her money. She gave up everything for him because she thought love was enough." "What happened?" Diane asked softly. "He had another family, another woman, 2 other children. He used my mother's money to support them while lying to her face for years," Jack said, his voice flat. "When she found out, it broke something in her. She died 3 years later. Heart attack, officially. But I think her heart had been broken long before it stopped beating." "Jack, I'm so sorry," Diane whispered. "I was 12 when she found out. 15 when she died," Jack said. "So yes, I'm cautious. Which is why this arrangement with you actually makes sense. You clearly don't need money. You're doing this as a favor. That's why I trust you." The guilt was suffocating. Diane wanted to confess everything, but the words wouldn't come. "It's getting late," Jack said. "We have brunch with grandfather tomorrow at 10. "That works," Diane said quietly. "Good night, Diane," Jack said. She walked back to her room in a daze. Jack thought she was wealthy. He'd shared his deepest pain with her, and she'd said nothing. She was a thief, stealing his trust. Her phone buzzed. "Ryan, Eli asking about you? When can you visit?" Diane typed. "Soon. I promise. Tell him I love him. 7 days." She just had to survive 7 days. The next afternoon, Jack took her to the Olympic Sculpture Park. They walked between sculptures rising against the backdrop of Puget Sound and the Olympic Mountains. "I used to come here with my mother," Jack said, "every Saturday. She loved art. Said it was the only honest thing in a dishonest world." "That's beautiful," Diane said. They walked in silence, moving between sculptures. The Seattle waterfront stretched out below them. After spending hours discussing and getting to know each other, he turned to her. "We should head back. Dinner with grandfather at 7, Jack said finally. "Another performance," Diane said. "Another performance," Jack agreed, "but maybe a little less of one than before." They walked back hand in hand, and Diane tried not to think about how natural it felt, how much she was going to hurt him when the truth came out. Edward's 72nd birthday party arrived 3 days later, a glittering showcase of Seattle's elite. Diane stood in her borrowed evening gown, feeling like a fraud among the genuine articles. "You look terrified," Jack murmured, appearing at her elbow with champagne. "I'm strategically concerned," Diane said. "There's a difference?" Jack asked. One sounds braver, Diane replied. Jack laughed, drawing glances from nearby guests. They moved through the party together, Jack's hand at the small of her back. He introduced her to dozens of people whose names blurred together. So you're the woman who finally caught Jack Jones, an older woman said. Margaret Chen. I've known Jack since he was in diapers. Then you have blackmail material I desperately need, Diane said. Margaret laughed, delighted. Oh, I like you. Jack, she's a keeper. The evening progressed smoothly until a tall, elegant woman in Dior appeared, her smile sharp as glass. Jack, darling, the woman said, kissing his cheek, why didn't you tell me you were seeing someone? Vanessa, Jack said, his body tensing. This is Diane Moretti. Diane, Vanessa Sterling, old family friend. Charming, Vanessa said, her eyes raking over Diane with barely concealed disdain. Moretti, Italian family. My father's side, Diane said carefully. Oh, che meraviglia, Vanessa said, switching to rapid Italian. Anch'io adoro la Toscana. Quale parte? Firenze? Siena? Diane's blood ran cold. She had no idea what Vanessa just said. Jack, watching from beside her, saw something that looked like panic in her eyes. However, he thought Diane was simply feeling intimidated by Vanessa. Vanessa, Diane understands Italian, but she doesn't like showing off. Do you, darling? Jack said smoothly. I find it pretentious, Diane said quickly, recovering. Vanessa's smile sharpened. How refreshingly humble. But her eyes promised this wasn't over. Later, Vanessa cornered Diane in the garden. You don't speak Italian at all, do you? Vanessa said. I don't know what you're talking about, Diane replied. Don't insult my intelligence. You froze. You had no idea what I said, Vanessa said, leaning in. I don't know who you are or what you're after, but I will find out. And when I do, Jack isn't the only one that will deal with you. She walked away, leaving Diane shaking. As if that wasn't enough, Grandpa Jones announced Jack's engagement to Diane in front of everyone. If only he knew she was just a fake girlfriend. We keep playing along. One more month, until the attention dies down. Then we quietly break up, Jack said, seeing how uneasy Diane was. Her voice broke. Jack, this is insane. I'll double what I'm paying you. He reached into his inner pocket, pulled out his checkbook, and scribbled a number that made her stomach twist. He tore the page and held it out. $100,000. She hesitated at first. But with this, Eli's surgery would finally be done. She took the check, thinking of Eli's surgery, while hating herself a little more. The next 30 days, following Edward's surprise engagement announcement, transformed everything. What started as a one-week arrangement became 30 days of carefully constructed intimacy. Morning coffee on the terrace discussing strategy slowly turned into real conversation. Edward watched them with growing satisfaction, convinced he'd been right about their connection. By week 3, when Edward collapsed from exhaustion and Jack held her hand in the hospital waiting room like she was his lifeline, Diane realized the terrible truth. She was falling for him. Actually falling, not pretending. And he was falling too. She could see it in the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. Hear it in his voice when he said her name. Feel it in the careful way he touched her, like she was something precious he was afraid to break. Vanessa didn't waste much time. She'd hired Seattle's best private investigator. After a while, she had everything. Real name, Diane Williams. Age, 26. Occupation, waitress, Riverside Diner. Address, Capitol Hill. Studio apartment, 2 months behind on rent. The folder was damning. Vanessa called Jack, asked to meet for coffee. They met at a private cafe in Madison Park. Vanessa slid the folder across the table. Her real name is Diane Williams, Vanessa said. Jack opened the folder. His face didn't move, but something behind his eyes shuddered. Photos of Diane in her diner uniform, name tag visible, rent statements. She's a waitress, Jack. She's using you, Vanessa said. Jack stared at the photos. Why are you showing me this? Because I care about you. Because you deserve someone real, Vanessa said. And you think you're real? Jack asked. I've never lied to you, Vanessa replied. Jack stood taking the folder. Thank you for the information. What are you going to do? Vanessa asked. That's none of your business, Jack said. He left, but he wasn't angry. He was something worse. Disappointed. All he could think was, she needed my money. That's all this was. That night, Jack drove aimlessly through Seattle, the folder on the passenger seat, like a ticking bomb. He didn't want to confront Diane yet. As he turned onto Madison Street, he saw Diane walking quickly down the sidewalk, coat pulled tight. Without thinking, he followed. She headed toward Seattle Children's Hospital, entered through the main doors. Jack parked, took the elevator up. He followed signs to the pediatric cardiac unit. Through a window, he saw her. Diane walked in and hugged a man before she sat on the edge of the bed, arms open as she hugged a young boy, kissing the top of his head. The man moved closer to her, resting his hand on Diane's shoulder. From where Jack stood, it looked intimate, like they were a family. His chest constricted. Memories flooded back. His mother finding the letters, the bank statements, his father's other family, a woman, 2 children. Years of lies. His mother screaming, he had another family all this time. Jack's hands curled into fists. History was repeating itself. A woman who needed money. A man she kept hidden. A child being raised in the shadows. He left before they saw him, his heart a stone in his chest. Jack didn't go back to the estate that night. He checked into a hotel, ignoring Diane's calls. She called 11 times. He didn't answer. By morning, she was terrified. What happened? Did Vanessa tell him? Jack finally texted, "Something came up. Stay at the estate. I'll be in touch." Diane knew something was wrong. 3 days later, Vanessa saw her opportunity. She contacted Jonathan Webb, Jones Industries' head of legal, and explained, a woman impersonating an heiress, defrauding the Jones family, potentially exposing the company to scandal. We need to handle this quietly. Just file the complaint, Vanessa said. Jonathan, believing he was protecting the company, filed a criminal complaint. Fraud, criminal impersonation, theft by deception. 2 days later, Diane was arrested at the diner during lunch rush. Diane Williams? The detective said. Yes, Diane replied. You're under arrest for fraud and criminal impersonation. You have the right to remain silent. The diner went silent. Her co-workers stared. She was walked out in handcuffs. At the station, they processed her, fingerprinted her, photographed her. I don't understand. What am I being charged with? Diane asked. Fraud, impersonating Diane Moretti, defrauding the Jones family, the detective said. Jack did this, Diane whispered. The complainant is Jones Holdings, the detective confirmed. They put her in a holding cell. She tried calling Jack. The call didn't go through. She tried again and again. He never answered. She spent 2 nights in jail, believing Jack had orchestrated the whole thing. Ryan scraped together bail. When he picked her up, Diane was hollow. What happened? Ryan asked. I made a mistake. A huge mistake, Diane said. We'll fix this. Ryan started. There's nothing to fix. I lied to him. He found out. And now he's making sure I pay for it. Diane said. She went home, quit her job by text, and started packing. She was done. Jack, meanwhile, had no idea Diane was arrested. Vanessa kept it entirely off his radar. No internal memos, no media coverage, just quiet legal action buried in paperwork he never saw. He spent 5 days avoiding the estate, working 18-hour days, trying to convince himself he'd made the right choice. But he felt empty. Edward called repeatedly. Jack didn't answer. Finally, Edward showed up at his office. "You look terrible," Edward said, walking past Marcus without permission. "I'm fine," Jack replied. "You look like your mother did after she found out about your father," Edward said. Hollow, like someone carved out everything that mattered. Jack flinched. "Where's Diane?" Edward asked. "She's gone," Jack said. "What did you do?" Edward demanded. "I didn't do anything. She lied about everything. Her name, her family, her entire life," Jack said. "And you didn't?" Edward countered. Jack looked up sharply. "You've been pretending to be fine for years, pretending you don't need anyone. So who's the real fraud here?" Edward said. "It's not the same," Jack started. "Your mother loved a man who lied to her. It destroyed her. And now you've let fear of becoming her turn you into your father," Edward said. The words landed like a punch. "She used me. She needed my money," Jack said. "And you used her. You paid her to lie. So what makes you better?" Edward interrupted. "I didn't," Jack tried. "You looked at her the way I haven't seen you look at anyone since your mother died. You smiled. You laughed. She made you human again. And the first moment you felt afraid, you threw her away," Edward said. "She has another family," Jack said. "What are you talking about?" Edward asked. "I saw her at the hospital with a man and a child. She was hiding them," Jack explained. "Did you ask her about it?" Edward demanded. Jack went silent. "Did you confront her? Talk to her? Or did you just decide she was guilty and walk away?" Edward pressed. Jack didn't answer. "That's what I thought," Edward said, standing. "Your mother's mistake wasn't loving someone poor. It was loving someone who didn't value her truth. Don't make the same mistake from the other side." He left. Jack sat alone, his grandfather's words echoing. That evening, Vanessa appeared at Jack's office. "I've taken care of the problem," Vanessa announced. "What problem?" Jack asked. "Diane, I filed charges on behalf of the company. Fraud, impersonation. She was arrested 3 days ago," Vanessa said confidently. Jack's blood ran cold. "You did what?" Jack shouted, standing abruptly. "I protected you," Vanessa started. "You had her arrested?" Jack's voice shook with rage. "She lied to you, Jack. She used you for money," Vanessa defended. "You had no right," Jack said, his voice deadly quiet now. "I had every right. You're too close to this. Someone had to," Vanessa argued. "Get out," Jack commanded. "Jack," Vanessa tried. "Get out. You're fired. From your position on the board, from any advisory role, from my life." "Get out," Jack said. Vanessa stared at him, shocked. However, seeing how stone-cold his face was, she knew better than to remain there. So, she left. Jack called Jonathan Webb immediately. "Drop the charges against Diane Williams immediately," Jack ordered. "Sir, I was under the impression," Jonathan started. "I don't care what Vanessa told you. Drop them. Now. And find out where she is," Jack said. Jack drove to the diner and was told she resigned. He went to Diane's apartment. The landlord said she moved out 2 days ago. Finally, he drove to Seattle Children's Hospital. He asked for information about Diane and eventually Eli Bennett at the pediatric cardiac unit. "Oh, sweet boy. His surgery went perfectly last week. He's recovering beautifully, the nurse said. What about Diane? Is she still here? Diane? She's wonderful. She and Ryan were here every single day. That little boy is so lucky to have them, the nurse said. Ryan is her, Jack prompted. Brother-in-law. Eli's father. Diane's been helping raise him since her sister Maya passed away. It's just the three of them now, the nurse explained. The world tilted. They're not together? Jack asked. Diane and Ryan? Oh no. He's still grieving Maya. Diane just stepped in to help with Eli. She works herself to the bone for that boy, the nurse said. Jack leaned against the wall, understanding crashing over him. Ryan wasn't a secret lover, but her brother-in-law. The young boy wasn't a hidden family, but her nephew. She lied to save a child's life, and he had her arrested for it. Jack spent 2 days tracking her down. Ryan's address, Kara's apartment, every place Diane might be. Kara refused at first. Please, Jack said. You had her arrested, Kara said coldly. I didn't know. I swear. I didn't know until 2 days ago, Jack pleaded. But you stopped answering her calls. She called you 11 times and you ignored her. She was terrified and you just disappeared, Kara said. I know. I was wrong. I thought, Jack started. You thought she was using you. Just like your dad used your mom, Kara interrupted. Jack looked up sharply. Yeah, she told me. About your mom. About your fear. And you know what? She understood. She felt terrible for lying to you. But she did it for Eli, not for herself, Kara said. Where is she? Jack asked. King Street Station. 7 o'clock bus. She's leaving Seattle, Kara said. But Jack, she's not going to forgive you easily. Jack arrived at King Street Station at 6:45. He found her at the bus terminal, sitting on a bench with a single suitcase. She looked exhausted, thinner, paler, like the last month drained something vital from her. Diane, Jack said. She looked up. Her eyes hardened. What are you doing here? Diane asked. I need to talk to you, Jack said. I have nothing to say to you, Diane replied. Please, 5 minutes, Jack requested. Diane stood, picking up her suitcase. You had me arrested, Jack. You had me put in jail. What could you possibly have to say to me? I didn't know. Vanessa did it without telling me. I swear, I didn't know until 2 days ago, Jack said. But you stopped answering my calls, Diane said. The accusation hung in the air. I did, and I was wrong, Jack admitted. Why? Why did you disappear? Diane asked. I saw you at the hospital with Ryan and Eli, and I thought... Jack trailed off. Understanding crossed her face. You thought I had a secret family. Just like your father, Diane said. Yes, Jack confirmed. Diane shook her head. Ryan is my brother-in-law. Eli is my nephew. My sister died 2 years ago, and I've been helping raise him ever since. That's who you saw. I know that now, Jack said. But you didn't ask. You saw what you expected to see, and you just left, Diane said. I was afraid, Jack admitted. I'm sorry. I didn't tell you who I was in the beginning, but I did what I did for Eli, and I don't regret it. You paid me to be your girlfriend. I didn't defraud you of your money. I'm sorry, Jack said. For which part? For abandoning me? For letting me get arrested? For assuming the worst without even talking to me? Diane asked. All of it, Jack replied. I called you 11 times from that police station. I thought maybe there was a mistake. Maybe you didn't know. But you never answered. And that's when I knew. You knew exactly what was happening. And you wanted me to suffer for lying to you, Diane said. That's not true, Jack protested. It doesn't matter if it's true. That's what it felt like. And that feeling? That's what I'll remember, Diane said. Her bus was announced over the loudspeaker. I have to go, Diane said. Where? Jack asked. Somewhere you're not, Diane replied. Diane, please, Jack begged. You know what the worst part is? I actually started to care about you. Not the money, not the arrangement. You. I started to believe maybe you saw me, the real me, and it didn't matter that I was broke or desperate or wearing borrowed clothes, Diane said, her voice cracking. But the second things got complicated, you decided I was just like everyone else who ever hurt you. You didn't even give me a chance to explain, she continued. You're right. I let my fear decide for me, and I hurt you. But I'm here now, Jack said. You're 6 days too late, Diane said. She picked up her suitcase and walked toward the bus. Jack watched her go, knowing he didn't deserve to follow. But her words stayed with him. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. Jack stood there, long after her bus disappeared into Seattle traffic. He drove back to the estate in a daze. Edward was waiting. Did you find her? Edward asked. Yes, Jack said. And? Edward prompted. She's leaving. She's right too, Jack replied. So you're just going to let her go? Edward asked. What else can I do? I destroyed her life. She now has a record because of me, Jack said. Then rebuild it, Edward said simply. It's not that simple, Jack started. It's exactly that simple. You made a mistake. Now you fix it. Not with money. Not with apologies. With action, Edward said. Your mother used to say something. Sorry is just a word, until you change the thing that made you sorry in the first place. You can't buy your way out of this one, Jack. You have to actually become someone different. I don't know how, Jack admitted. Then figure it out. Because right now, you're exactly what you were afraid she was. Someone who takes what they need and walks away when it gets complicated, Edward said. The words hit like a physical blow. 3 months passed. Jack didn't chase Diane. He didn't send flowers or letters or grand gestures. Instead, he disappeared. He took a leave of absence from Jones Industries. The first time in 8 years he'd stepped away from work. He drove north to a cabin on Orcas Island that his mother used to rent when she needed to think. He spent his days chopping wood, fixing the fence, sitting by the water. No phone calls, no emails, just silence and waves. He started therapy with Dr. Sarah Chen. What brings you here, Jack? Dr. Chen asked during their first session. I hurt someone I care about, and I don't know how to fix it, Jack said. Tell me what happened, she said. And for the first time in his life, Jack talked, really talked, about his mother, about watching her die, about the fear that lived in his chest for 15 years, about Diane, and how seeing her at the hospital made him spiral into the past. You saw your father's betrayal happening again, Dr. Chen observed. Yes, Jack confirmed. But it wasn't happening again. It was just your fear telling you a story, Dr. Chen said. I know that now, Jack admitted. What stopped you from asking her the truth? Dr. Chen asked. Jack was silent for a long time. I didn't want to hear that I was right, because if I was right, it would mean I can never trust anyone. And that's a lonely way to live, Jack said finally. So you chose loneliness before she could choose it for you, Dr. Chen said. Yes, Jack agreed. And now? She asked. Now I'm just lonely, Jack said. He stayed on the island for 6 weeks. He learned to sit with discomfort, to feel fear without running from it, to understand that his mother's tragedy wasn't about love. It was about loving someone who didn't value her. Diane valued him. She just needed help. There's a difference. When Jack returned to Seattle, he didn't go to Diane. Instead, he called Jonathan Webb. I want a full audit of every legal action taken by Jones Industries in the past year. Every complaint filed, every lawsuit initiated. I want to know if we've hurt anyone else. The way we hurt Diane Williams, Jack said. Over the next month, the audit revealed uncomfortable truths. A small business owner sued into bankruptcy. A family displaced by development, paid pennies for their home. 3 former employees silenced with NDAs. Jack didn't announce it. He just started making calls. He settled with the business owner, helped him reopen. He tracked down the displaced family, renegotiated fair compensation. He released the employees from their NDAs. It took months. It was tedious, unglamorous work. But slowly, Jack started to understand what accountability meant. 4 months after Diane left, Jack drove past Riverside Diner. He heard from Jonathan that Diane had returned and was now the owner of the diner. The lights were on. He parked but didn't go in. He just watched through the window. Diane was there, wearing an apron, laughing at something Kara said. She looked not happy exactly, but lighter, like she was learning to breathe again. He drove away without going inside. A week later, he came back. Early morning, before the rush. He sat in a corner booth. Diane didn't see him at first. She was busy with the coffee machine. When she finally turned and spotted him, she froze. "What are you doing here?" Diane asked. "I heard the coffee was good," Jack said. "Jack," Diane started. "I'm not here to bother you. I wanted to see how you were doing," Jack said. She studied him for a long moment, then poured him a cup of coffee and set it down without a word. "Thank you," Jack said. "That's $3.50, Diane said. He pulled out a 5, left it on the table. "Keep the change," Jack said. "I don't need your charity," Diane replied. "It's a tip. That's how diners work," Jack said. Despite herself, she almost smiled. "You look different," Diane observed. "I've been away." "Thinking," Jack said. "About?" Diane asked. "Everything I did wrong," which is a long list, Jack said. "And?" she prompted. "And I'm trying to be better, because I don't want to be the person who runs anymore," Jack said. Diane crossed her arms. "That's great, Jack. Really," she said. "Thank you." He stood, leaving the money on the table. "The coffee really is good," Jack said. Then he walked out. Diane watched him go, her hands shaking slightly. Kara appeared beside her. "You okay?" Kara asked. "I don't know," Diane admitted. Jack came back the next week. Same booth, same order. Diane served him coffee, said nothing beyond the transaction. He didn't push. He just drank his coffee, left a normal tip, and went. The 3rd week, she asked, "Why do you keep coming here?" "Best coffee in Seattle," Jack said. "There are 40 better coffee shops within 5 miles, Diane countered. "Not to me," Jack replied. She didn't know what to say to that. Week 7, Ryan came into the diner with Eli after school. Eli saw Jack and his face lit up. "You're the man from Aunt Diane's pictures," Eli exclaimed. "What pictures?" Jack asked, confused. "Aunt Diane has, pictures. From when you were friends," Eli said innocently. "Eli, go wash your hands," Diane said quickly. She looked really happy in them. "She doesn't look happy much anymore," Eli added. Ryan gently guided Eli away. "Eli, come on." Ryan nodded at Jack, not hostile, just acknowledging, and they headed to a different booth. Jack looked at Diane. She'd turned away, wiping down the counter with unnecessary force. Week 9, Jack came in during a dinner rush. Every booth was full. Diane was overwhelmed. Kara had called in sick, and she was handling the floor alone. "We're slammed. You'll have to wait," Diane said. "Put me to work," Jack offered. "What?" Diane said. "I can bus tables or wash dishes." "Whatever you need," Jack said. "Jack, you don't?" Diane protested. "Please, let me help," Jack said. She was too tired to argue. "Fine. Dishes. Back there," Diane said, pointing. He rolled up his sleeves and spent the next 3 hours washing dishes, taking out trash, refilling coffee for tables. He was terrible at it. He broke a plate, he scalded his hand, he got grease all over his expensive shirt. But he didn't complain. He just kept working. When the rush finally died down, Diane found him in the back, drying the last of the pots. "You didn't have to do that," Diane said. "I wanted to," Jack replied. "Why?" she asked. "Because you needed help. And for once, I didn't want to just throw money at a problem. I wanted to actually do something," Jack explained. She leaned against the doorframe, exhausted. "Your hand is burned," Diane observed. "It's fine," Jack said. "Let me see," Diane insisted. She took his hand, examined the red mark across his palm, and guided him to the sink. She turned on the cold water, holding his wrist as water ran over the burn. "You're an idiot. You know that," Diane said. "I'm aware," Jack admitted. "You can't just show up and wash dishes and expect that to fix everything," she said. "I know," Jack said. "I'm still angry at you," Diane stated. "You should be," Jack agreed. "I don't trust you," she added. "I understand," Jack said. She turned off the water but didn't let go of his hand. "But," Diane started. "But," Jack prompted, "but I appreciate what you did tonight. And I've noticed you coming in, not pushing. Just showing up," Diane said. "That's all I know how to do right now," Jack admitted. "It's more than you did before," Diane acknowledged. They stood there in the small kitchen, surrounded by the smell of grease and coffee, his hand still in hers. "I can't just pick up where we left off. That person doesn't exist anymore. I don't know if she ever really did," Diane said. "I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking if maybe we could start from here. From the truth this time," Jack said. "I'd like the chance to be in your life. Even just as the guy who comes in for coffee and occasionally washes dishes badly," he added. Diane smiled warmly. "Come back next week. Same time." "Okay," Jack agreed. "And bring bandages. You're a disaster in the kitchen," Diane added. Jack smiled. "Yes, ma'am." 6 months later, Diane stood at the diner counter, watching Jack through the window as he played with Eli in the parking lot. They were tossing a football. Well, Jack was teaching Eli how to throw, and Eli was mostly just giggling and running in circles. "He's good with him," Ryan said, appearing beside her with coffee mugs to wash. "Yeah, he is," Diane agreed. "You happy, Dee?" Ryan asked. Diane thought about it. Really thought about it. 6 months ago, she would have said happiness was impossible. "Yeah," Diane said finally. "I think I am." The door opened. Jack and Eli tumbled in, both laughing. "Aunt Diane, Jack says he'll teach me how to cook," Eli announced. "Jack can't cook," Diane said. "I can learn," Jack protested. "You burned water last week," Diane reminded him. "It was one time," Jack said. "It was impressive," Ryan added with a grin. Edward entered behind them, impeccably dressed as always. "Are we doing Sunday dinner at the estate, or are we slumming it at the diner again?" Edward asked, though his tone was fond. "Diner," Diane, Jack, Ryan, and Eli said in unison. Edward sighed dramatically. "Fine, but I'm ordering the pot roast, Diane's recipe." They crowded into their usual booth, the big one in the corner that Diane always kept reserved on Sundays now. Edward and Ryan discussed the Seahawks. Eli colored on his placemat. Jack sat beside Diane, his hand finding hers under the table. "You good?" Jack asked quietly. "I'm good," Diane confirmed. "Even with my disaster cooking?" he teased. "Especially with your disaster cooking," Diane said. Jack laughed, that full, genuine laugh she'd worked months to hear regularly. "I love you," he said. Not for the first time, but it still made her heart skip. "I know," Diane replied. "I love you too. Even though you're terrible at dishes and worse at cooking and you still overpay for coffee." "It's called tipping," Jack protested. "It's called showing off," Diane countered. "Can I help it if I appreciate quality service?" Jack asked. Kara appeared with their usual orders. She knew them all by heart now. "You two are disgusting," Kara said, but she was smiling. "All cute and domestic. It's offensive." "You're just jealous," Diane said. "Obviously," Kara agreed. "When are you going to get me a billionaire?" "I'm not a billionaire," Jack said. "You're close enough," Kara replied, walking away. Diane leaned into Jack's shoulder, watching her family, her real family, chosen and blood and everything in between, laugh and eat and exist in this small pocket of happiness she'd built from nothing. It wasn't perfect, but they were trying. Both of them, together. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Jack squeezed her hand under the table. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" Diane asked. "For giving me a second chance. For teaching me what real love looks like. For being patient while I figured out how to be worthy of you," Jack said. Diane turned to look at him fully. "You were always worthy, Jack. You just had to believe it yourself," she said. He kissed her forehead, soft and sweet. Eli made exaggerated gagging noises. Edward laughed. Ryan threw a balled-up napkin at Eli, which started a small war. And in that moment, in a diner in Seattle, where she'd once served coffee while drowning in desperation, Diane Williams was completely, perfectly, impossibly happy. Not because she'd found a rich man. Not because all her problems had been solved by money. But because she'd found someone who saw her. Really saw her. All of her. The good and the broken and the desperate. And chose her anyway. And she'd chosen him back. Subscribe for more stories like this. Don't forget to like, share, and drop your rating in the comments on a scale of 1 to 10. How much did this one pull you in?